Hello folks, Jarod Hector, BSO Entertainment, and I'm so pleased to be joined by Season 5 co-executive producer and writer, Heather Zuhlke. Heather, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And I see you are wearing your Omari, Leela, Notori, Joseph shirt, so you're already in the mood.
Yes, absolutely.
Those are, as you all know, Power fans, the 4 stars of our favorite television show on Starz, Power. And, this show is extremely popular. I mean, people love it. So can you talk to me about how you sort of got the call from Courtney or the team, and were you familiar with the show before you got here? How did that process all unfold?
Yes, so I remember vividly, it was Easter Monday, and I was down at the beach, and I got a call from my agent saying, Courtney wants to meet with you, and I knew very much about the show,
Right.
and that 50 was involved, and I was thrilled. It was a big moment. Like, I remember where I was standing when I got the phone call.
Yeah.
And I really connected with Courtney during my interview because we're both working moms. So it was a great meeting, and I walked out feeling really good, and then I got the call that I got it, and here we are.
And so you mentioned working moms, right? And so Power, as we know, and our fans know, when I talk about this all the time, New York City is one of the stars of the show.
Yes.
You are LA based, so how difficult is that, sort of that back and forth between LA and New York when you're working on the show?
We make it work. The kids will come and visit. But it's really fun also to have a little mommy time
Yeah.
on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I really have fallen in love with New York too.
Yeah.
It's an incredible place. The energy's awesome.
Greatest city in
Just
the world.
being out there with everybody, having my Carrie Bradshaw moments and my platforms on the weekends.
Very nice.
So we make it work.
So what was your journey into TV writing? Is this what you knew you always wanted to do? Or is it kind of like, for a lot of people, I don't want to say fall into it, but things sort of line up correctly, and they just, next thing they know, 15, 20 years later, I've been in the TV and movie industry.
Yeah, I have wanted to be a screenwriter since I was in 10th grade.
Okay.
And so I went to Cal State Fullerton, go Titans, and I studied, I was a communications major, TV and film, and I was interning at Mark Platt Productions, literally when he had just optioned the book to Wicked.
Okay, yeah.
And was turning it into a musical.
Yeah.
And his assistant there was giving me this job list, this industry job list, and she said, oh, John Wells is hiring for a production assistant, which is the lowest level job. Your foot in the door job, you're getting coffee, lunches, cigarettes for people.
Right, the usual deal.
And I applied for the PA job at John Wells Productions, and I got it. And then I ended up so I was a PA for 6 months. I became John Wells' second assistant 6 months later. Then I was his first assistant for 4 years. And at the time, John was doing ER, The West Wing, and Third Watch.
Oh, wow. I mean, those are like powerhouse shows.
Yes. So literally, like 6 months after I got into the industry, I'm going to the Emmys with everybody, and The West Wing is winning Best Series.
Yeah.
So I put 5 years in on John's desk, and I said to him, listen, okay, I've been here, I've been grinding, I've been doing your schedule.
Right.
I want to write.
Right.
And I got in the Warner Brothers Writers Workshop.
Okay.
And then he staffed me. So my first staff job was on a show called The Evidence.
Yeah.
So I ended up working with John for a total of 13 years, and he was an amazing mentor, and I wrote on his shows for 8 years. So usually as a writer, you get on stuff that gets canceled.
Yeah.
But I was on Southland for all 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And had an awesome run on that. And then when that ended, I went out in the world and started getting jobs outside of John Wells Productions.
That's incredible. And don't worry, Power fans, we're going to get into Power, but I'm always so fascinated about the journey. So a lot of people don't realize, actors talk about this too, but I bet it's the same for writers as well. The pilot season is crazy because you're always writing for pilots that, and people don't know, thousands of pilots get brought to, but it never goes beyond the pilot. So was that part of the process for you as well?
This year was really incredible because I had a pilot at NBC that of course didn't get filmed, but it was with Chris Morgan, who wrote all the Fast and Furious movies.
Yep.
And you're constantly trying to create new stuff. The great thing about Power is because it's on premium cable and Starz, it staffs in the off season. Yeah. So I've missed the fear of you go on these interviews, right? And then you're watching on the website Deadline Hollywood,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, okay, I had this interview. Then you see that show got canceled. Then you see, oh wait, that show it's not getting ordered to series, and you
Right.
just see your options disappear.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
these last 3 years on Power have been awesome because our writer's room starts in early May.
Yeah.
Always around Courtney's birthday.
Nice.
She always throws a banger.
Love it, with 50 and everybody all showing up.
She's throwing some bangers. And yeah, so we're always in the room and we're reading like, oh, that show, all our friends are going through staffing and it's on regular broadcasts.
Yeah.
And we're always so nice to not have that.
And that, again, the beauty of premium cable. So I mentioned at the start, you are a co-executive producer and writer for season 5.
Okay.
So when you're not writing, what does that mean? What is a co-executive producer? What are you doing?
So when Courtney can't be in the writer's room or Gary can't be, who's our other executive producer, I help run the writer's room.
Okay.
And then I got to make sure my stuff's on point when Courtney comes in because she's looking to me.
Right.
And I'm saying, okay, here's what we came up with.
Right.
And Courtney always makes everything better. You know, she is the creator, her vision, these characters, she created them. So you run the room, you pitch, and then it's producing your episodes too on set and making sure that everything that's on the page is translated on the screen. It's such a collaboration with your director and your actors.
Right.
So we're there if Omari has a question or Joe has a question. We can say, you know what, actually this line right here is going to pay off in 3 episodes. And if you notice on Power, like, we really plot.
Yes.
It's very sophisticated plotting, and that is something, you know, that Courtney, that's really something that she has us do is really plot. Yeah. And you'll see how things are paying off.
Yeah, for sure.
Like from season 1
yeah,
to now.
Absolutely.
There's every little thread.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun is you see how these threads become unraveled.
Yes, the callbacks to me are always key, and I'm always noting them when I'm recapping. Like, guys, remember in season 1, episode 4, when X, Y, and Z happened? Like, this is the payoff moment for that now, all the way here in season 5. So you talked about what it's like working with Courtney. So now that we're sort of in the thick of this, you of course know, and guys, sorry, no spoilers, but you know how the story's going to end, I imagine, right?
Well, I don't know how the series is going to end.
Okay. Because I imagine Courtney knows. Maybe she doesn't.
I'm sure she does.
Right.
But since the season 6 writer's room is up and running and I'm not there anymore, so I don't know what they're working on.
Okay, yeah.
So I know how season 5 ends, but I don't know what amazing things they have planned for season 6, so y'all better tune in.
So it's interesting then. So since you don't know how the overall story is going to end, when you're pitching in the writer's room, what is that process like? Because does Courtney come in veto and say, no, that's not happening? Because
we break it by season. We break it by season. At the beginning of every season, Courtney comes in and she says, okay, this is the theme that I want to do, right? And of course, we're picking up wherever the season left off. Like, obviously, we lost Raina.
Right.
Pour one out for her in season
that was
4.
A rough one. We got Vigilante Joe as a result. He's drinking, he's murdering. Like, it's, you know, we all grieve in different ways. That's how Ghost chooses to grieve.
Everybody has to hurt different ways. So we really try and work with what the theme is and then what we want to build to, you know. And Courtney will always have an idea of kind of where the end of the season is going. But where the end of the series is, I don't.
You don't know.
I don't know. And there's lots of wonderful debates in the room. Everyone is very invested in the characters. Everyone really cares about the characters. We literally get into arguments over make-believe people.
Well, no, and I think it's so interesting you bring that up because I have to imagine, as a writer, because you've been part of the show since season 3, correct?
Season 3, yeah.
I know they're make-believe, but you have a certain investment in these characters, right? Whether, like, you know, I remember Courtney saying once, Holly was one of her favorite characters, so it's difficult for her to kill Holly off. Spoiler alert, but if you're listening to this, you know Holly's dead. You know, so whether it's Angela or Ghost or whomever, people have these attachments. So how difficult is it for you guys when you're in there to sort of be devoid of your sort of love for a particular character, but at the same time do what's right for the show in your pitches?
Well, it's always about who the character is, right? We have to stay true to who that character is. So it's always about what is the best story with that character, right? And would this character do this? How far would this character go? So I really relate to both Angela and Tasha.
Right, for sure.
Because I'm a career woman.
Right.
I'm on the rise.
Right.
I want to move up.
Right.
Those things are important. And I'm also a mama bear.
Right.
And I also really relate to the Angela ghost story because I met my husband when I was 19. So there's that deep history between Angela and Ghost.
Yeah.
And then there's the person that he brought his children into the world with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I love both those characters. I love writing for Tommy.
He's great. He's great.
Joe is incredible.
Yeah.
And there's always something fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because obviously this is a heavy season in the wake of Raina's death. And it's always fun to kind of get into Tommy and go, oh, okay, what's Tommy gonna do? His scenes with Kate, with his mom are always
those are the best. I'm always
fire.
like, here she comes drug addicted Kate, rolling into the scene.
Is she gonna kiss her son on the lips?
Probably. And it's incredible. You know, you mentioned themes and the stories, and I'd love to talk to you about what the theme of this season is, season 5, and also what you think Power is as a whole. Because I always see Power, as much as it is in the title, a story about power and the lengths in which we go to not only not cede power to others, maintain it and hold on to it, but also sort of the collateral damage that results as a result of that. But also, at its core, and you mentioned it because you identify with Angela, Power's a love story in many ways, right?
Yeah.
And it's, yes, there is Tasha and Ghost, but Angela is this unshakable person that he can't get out of his system, and she can't get out of her system, right? And it calls back to season 1. So talk to us a little bit about sort of the overall theme, and then this theme in particular for season 5.
I think, ultimately, it's the transference of power between people, right? Ghost always has a plan.
Although lately, those plans have not been great.
So, and then it's the powerlessness.
Yeah.
When you're saying the plans, right? The best laid plans, everything falls apart.
Yeah.
So powerlessness is also a big theme too, because it's like, okay, Ghost says to Tommy, all right, this is the plan. And then what does Tommy do? Tommy goes and changes the plan. Right? Or Ghost will tell Tommy what he needs to know. For the plan, and then he goes and turns to someone else and tells him what the real plan is. You know, so everyone's making moves, and it's about us trying to be in control, and we really aren't. And I mean, as much as Ghost thought he was in control, look what happened to Raina. You know. So, and then I think for season 5, it's respect, legacy, revenge.
Yeah, for sure.
And we got into a lot of discussions about legend versus legacy.
That's so interesting.
So, legend, right, is how we view ourselves.
Exactly.
Right?
And over time, how that legend grows or changes with the narrative, right? The story changes.
Right, because like Tommy is known on the streets, like he's the guy who will throw people off buildings, bubble wrap, right? So it's a lot about how our characters see themselves, but what is really the legacy? You know? So we played a lot with that. And we do these character documents at the beginning of every season too. And when I have my own show, I'm going to do it. It's something that I learned from Courtney. And it's just so cool because we pick out quotes. Every writer gets assigned a character, and we pick out a quote that we think fits the character. And it's I am this, I am this, I am this, you know, and then we do their arcs of where we start at the beginning of the season and where we're going to take them.
Awesome.
So it's all really plotted out. You know,
you can totally see that. And, you know, as we talk about characters and we talked about how invested you are in it, talk about it from the fan perspective, because I know oftentimes fans, because I'll get it in my recaps and they'll talk about it, whether it's like, I'm in love with Angela, I hate her, and I'm like, okay, you guys know that's not a real person, right? Like, but people have such visceral reactions to them. How difficult is it for you and the actors to sort of remind yourselves, and then with the proliferation of social media, right, to be like, hey guys, remember, this is all entertainment, like, we're enjoying this, like, Lila Loren is not actually Angela Valdez, right? And she's not in your husband's house, like, taking him away from you. Like, that's not actually happening. But people feel a certain kind of way, and you get it, because this is not make-believe, right? These things you could see, I mean, maybe not so much of like the drug kingpin part. People may not be related to that part, but losing your husband to somebody or whatever, those things happen literally every day and all the time.
I think that the audience is really invested in these characters because the themes are so universal too. The journey of self-discovery. Ghost does awful things.
Awful things.
But at his core, he's struggling with, who do I want to be, and can I change who I am? And that is so universal from, I want to be a doctor to, I want to lose 10 pounds, right?
Right, yeah.
The self-discovery journey, and I think that's why people are so invested, because everyone can relate. It's definitely been a lot harder, I think, for our actors because of the social media aspect, because people do go in at them, people go hard.
Very hard.
On social media. For us, as the writing staff, it hasn't been so bad because we're not playing those things. But, there's certain people, there's like certain groups that are always hitting us up on Twitter like, wait a minute, you got to do this and this. These people need to be back together. And the thing that's great about Power, too, just touching on what you were saying, is there's the love story, but you also have this triangle.
Yes.
You have the Tommy Ghost Angela triangle too.
Because that is a childhood triangle in many ways, right?
Yeah. Besides the Tasha Ghost
Angela triangle.
Yeah, and now you have like Ghost Kane and Tommy too. So there's so many things that play, and you have the love story, you have the action, right? We have our shootouts, we have the procedural element where they're trying to solve a case, Angela's team. We have the cinematic storytelling. It's just there's something for everybody on the show.
I agree.
And I think that's part of the reason it's such a hit too.
You just talked about how much of a hit it is, and obviously we love it at BSO and BSO Entertainment. Our fans love it. You get, we follow each other on Twitter, and I'm always seeing you interacting with fans. People go nuts over this show. Is it surprising to you that the Emmys haven't given it the knowledge and the sort of acclaim that we think it deserves? Because I mentioned this to Courtney once during a Twitter conversation, and she wrote back to me just basically saying, almost resigned, like the Emmys just may not be in our future. That's just the way this is. And she, I don't know if she's actually upset about it or not. It's just sort of like, it is what it is, sort of the sort of tone I got from her. But it's shocking to me because it seems like it would be a show that if it was part of that, people, it would definitely win something.
Yeah, I think we've all been really disappointed over that. I mean, you look at Game of Thrones is 1 on premium cable, and we're number 2.
Yeah.
And that's a
that's huge
deal.
Yeah, that's humongous.
And most shows with those rankings are getting the nominations. So it's been very disappointing because so much love and hard work goes into it, not just in the writer's room, the cast, the crew is phenomenal, and they work long hours and they're outside a lot because where do drug dealers meet?
Right, exactly. Outside, on the street corners.
Outside in the street corners. Our crew comes back every year, though. It's an incredible crew, and we were thrilled. I was here in New York filming 507 when we got our NAACP award.
That's awesome.
When we got Best Show, and it was, I'm laying
great.
in bed. I think it was like 2 a.m, and I'm on Twitter watching it, and it was really exciting, and it was so, it was well deserved, and Omari and Naturi, like it was just a really exciting weekend, and it felt great I was happy that I was here in New York, because I got to go on set that Monday morning, and Joe Shakura made an announcement to the crew.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it was a moment of like, everyone, you're working hard, and what, we have been recognized.
Yeah, and it's funny because what I always hear from cast and crew is that, and I know it's cliche-ish, but it's true because I've talked to enough people that do this stuff to realize that it literally is a family, right? Because you spend, if the show runs, and this is already season 6, 7, like we're moving forward, it's many years, and you see different things happening in each other's lives. Kids, marriages, whatever, and because you're real people outside of these characters they inhabit and outside of writing these episodes. So I think it's important that there is that recognition, and I'm sure when Joseph made the announcement, the crew especially probably were super excited because they are often the unsung heroes, right? Because they're the behind the scenes, the key grip, those people who were like, it's like, watch the credits, people. All those millions of names, like, it's the heavy lifting that you can see the polished stuff in the end. So it's incredible. So you mentioned episode 507. You wrote 502, Damage Control.
Yes.
And episode 507. So I want to go back to episode 502 because that was there was some great scenes in that episode. One of my favorite ones was when they're in Raina's room. Tasha's in there and Ghost comes in and he says, this is the first time I've been in here. And she's like, I know. You can't come in and I can't leave, right? And I was just like, good Lord. And what did I just say? 10 words? It wasn't a ton of dialogue, but you can see it from their face, how they emoted. I mean, what was it like in the room when you were sort of conceiving those scenes and you were blocking that day and the day you guys actually shot that scene?
It was really important that they didn't touch.
Yeah.
Because there's such a wedge between them, Omari and Naturi are such outstanding actors and so gifted at what they do. And that was one of the things is we wanted to make sure that they didn't connect because it's about how disconnected they are. And Ghost is on his revenge mission, and she can't see anything past that her baby girl is gone. Yeah. So it is those how people grieve in different ways. But our director Slick Naeem, I remember because we broke for lunch and then we came back and you're in the moment and you hate to stop. Right. Right. But it was a beautiful day. Right. A beautiful scene.
And it's interesting you mentioned them not physically touching, and I did notice that. Because really with Ghost and Tasha, what everyone realizes is the only thing connecting them is their children really at this point, right? Like, they have very limited actual physical interaction. In one of the later episodes, I think it was either last week, where she had overslept, you can even see how they touch is not a very loving touch. It's like, hey, wake up, we're gonna be late for this thing. It's almost very much like we're in this procedural situation until we can solve whatever our external problems are, right? And it's amazing.
Yeah, and then in that episode too, he goes to grief share with her, right? Yes. Just because sorry, sorry about it, yeah. And when he does touch her, she raises her hand to talk, and he grabs her hand, and he's like,
we can't be talking about this.
And that's, I think, where the audience is reminded, yes, for people who have lost a child, it's different when you're drug dealers. Right. And so that's the loneliness and the isolation of that storyline is that you have to grieve. Yeah. But you can't openly do it.
No. And it's interesting that you bring up the isolation. Another great scene of the episode you wrote, 502, was where they're having the press conference. Yeah. And Tasha gets up and she's like, I can't help but feel responsible. We are all responsible, right? And it's, yes, to the larger sort of metaphor you can make about how we as a collective society are responsible for what happens to people that we bring into this world, but also talking directly to Ghost and everybody else. No, this was us. Like, we killed our daughter. Like, what was it like, again, when you were writing that scene and sort of that whole process for Naturi? Because, again, going back to the Emmys, if I'm making her Emmy reel for this season, those two scenes are for sure 1 and 2 on there.
That was also, I remember sitting at the monitors and having tears watching her do that. And she'd been ambushed, right? She didn't know. They didn't know they were walking into a press conference because of our good friend Councilman Tate.
Good old Lorenz Tate.
Who's no good.
Who is a bad dude.
But I think writing that scene too, it's what does a mother want to say about their child? Because you're just seeing the face, right? She's been killed. What is the story that's out there? Is it, we know the dad went to prison, right? So that's public that Ghost had been in prison, and now his daughter is gunned down. Right. So the narrative that the public is thinking is so different from what a mother is feeling, which is, I want you to know X, Y, and Z about my daughter and what I'm going to miss about her and all the things that I'm going to miss out on. Yeah. So, that was, and I think I remember when I was writing that, it was I was tearing up just emotional. Because I have a daughter too, So you're able to go to those places from your own life experiences.
I always wonder that too, if it's the same for writers as it is for actors, right? Because writers, especially if they go method, right, can really recall and go into these recesses and pull these feelings out. And you, especially, it's so interesting, you being a mother of 2 children, like, you can sort of pull that, and a boy and a girl like this,
Yes.
right? You can pull right from there, right? And feel it's like, this is what I would say if something happened to my daughter or my son.
Yes. What would I want to say about my child? How, and also too, like, how do you want your child to be remembered, right?
So you also wrote episode 507, which I know you can't tell us about.
Right.
But in a larger context, without spoilers, are there more themes that we're going to be looking for in 507? Sort of where does 507 go and take us again without revealing?
I think that, so, this is a season about configurations of new alliances. Was anyone expecting at the end of season 4 to see those 3 guys sitting in Tommy's
not.
Mustang together?
The unholy alliance, as I call them, the unholy trinity. That's bad news, those 3.
So I think what you can expect in 507 is a continuation of that. Like even these scenes at the beginning of the season with Angela and Tasha meeting and pretty much working together and meeting at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
507, will continue
Yeah.
to push those alliances.
Yeah.
So.
And I enjoy the Tasha Angela scenes now and the evolution of their relationship, right? I mean, it was initially, right, I'm gonna kill this bitch, right? Like, I mean, because that's your initial reaction when someone is sleeping with your husband, right? To now, they literally need each other. And they're now sharing, like, look, I think I joked on my recaps, they're not going to Saks shopping together, but,
But I mean, Tasha is trying to protect, she's lost one child, right?
Right.
She has to protect Tariq, she has Yaz,
Yeah.
but she has to protect, and it's like, at what lengths will you go to do that?
And any lengths, right? Because you already lost one, so. We're gonna start wrapping up. A couple things I want to get into. First, what one piece of advice would you have for anyone who wants to get into TV writing, episodic television? Because it's not an easy business. But what would you share to those who want to get involved in that?
You gotta go pay your dues. So I've been in the business for 18 years now, and it's really, you and I met on Twitter, right?
Yes.
And that's what's great is people can connect. But, will you read my script? Because I paid my dues for 5 years.
Right.
You have to put in the time.
Yeah.
You got the talent, that's great, but you also got to build some relationships, put in the time, do some work, and impress people. I might be impressed with the way you hit me up on Twitter, or that if you're it's a creative
tweet or whatever.
But you gotta write. If you want to be a writer writes. And you have got to put in some time, and you need to learn how the business works, because you're gonna show up on set, and if you haven't put in the time, you don't know what's going on. How do you produce your episode if you don't know every single detail of what's going on? Like, I'm not a cameraman, but I'm learning about lenses, right?
That makes sense.
And I'm learning about the shots, and you also too, I think, when you put in your time, you never forget that time, and because it's a really humbling time.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're at the bottom of the food chain, it's a humbling time. It's a time of growth, and it's also a time where you can be mentored and learn from the higher ups. So I just think, get your stuff written and be willing to do the grunt work too, and get yelled at.
Right. That's how we get better.
Lunches, and you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
But don't let the mistakes, don't live in fear. Right. We just biblically fear no man.
Right.
You gotta be confident you're your own best salesperson, and also know your log line, right?
Yep.
So for a writer, know how you're gonna sell yourself. One of my mentor, John Wells, he said you have 30 seconds to impress someone. So embrace your story, know how to sell your story, and know what you're going to say about yourself in 30 seconds that's going to make someone remember you, or think damn, that's the person I should hire for this job. Because people really want authentic storytellers, right? They want people who have the moral authority to come in and tell us stories. So I always encourage people to embrace their stories and don't be afraid to tell their own.
And one of the great pieces of advice you gave in that answer was also, if you want to be a writer, writer's right. I mean, you must carve out time, regardless of your schedule, to put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and write. Yeah. It's the only way you get better. So you have been the writer, co-executive producer for season 5, and this will be your last season with Power. So we're sad for that, Power fans, because she's written some of the great episodes of this show and has been really instrumental in the success of this show and this series. But you have some exciting things coming up in your future. So tell us about what you have that you're working on and what's coming up in the future for Heather Zuhlke.
So I'm on a new show called Tell Me a Story. Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream, Vampire Diaries, The Following. It's a very dark twist on fairy tales.
Nice. So it's kind of like Roald Dahl's Snow White, like that kind of.
It's a real cautionary tale, right? Okay. So we really play with the psychological. Kevin is so great at scares and creepy sequences. So I'm doing all that. And we're filming here in New York, and we'll be on the CBS All Access app too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great.
I'm also I'm a cop's wife. I'm married to a SWAT officer, and I was hired to write a feature about LAPD's first fallen SWAT officer.
Awesome.
So his widow hired me. Great. And I adapted it off a book she wrote, and it's a really important movie right now. And Randy Simmons, he's what a police officer in America is meant to be. And he also was a black officer. Every weekend he was in the projects, doing his ministry, spending time with the kids, taking kids to church on Sundays. And he believed that we needed to talk to people. That as police officers, they're taught to look at the outer man and the criminality, and Randy's police style was we need to talk to young people and see what's going on inside of their heads.
Get to know them.
And if we can figure out what's going on in their heads, then we can change a generation. And his life was tragically cut short in a SWAT operation 10 years ago. So that is a huge honor for me. Michael B. Jordan, if you are watching this, reading this,
we love it.
We love you.
We're gonna tweet this at you, Michael B. Jordan.
We want you to play Randy Simmons.
That'd be great. So, as we wrap up this final thing, I'm going to ask you about that. You mentioned, and obviously you're clearly very sensitive and you know what's going on. This is a very powerful story for you to tell, and I feel as though, and I'm sure you know it, have a major responsibility with this story. Yeah. How are you approaching that? What's going on in your mind? What are you thinking? Because not only do you have a responsibility because of what's going on now, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, as a writer, as a producer, you want authenticity and you want to, I don't think your job is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you don't want to tell people what they should think. I think you want people to question and what is this really, and what is our goal here with this particular situation? So how are you sort of approaching that?
This is a passion project for me. My prayer, and when I say this is my prayer that it will bridge the black and blue issue going on in our country right now. I feel like people just, if they could just listen to each other.
No, it's okay.
So, my husband, we live where he patrols. We live in the city. And his investment in our community, Yeah. So I really hope that people can see, I hope that cops will go and see this movie and see Randy. Because he gave 120% off duty and on duty. And I hope that those who aren't invested in the communities that they're patrolling will be able to go and see this film and go, damn, look at what Randy did. Yeah. Randy spent every Saturday and every Sunday being a father to these kids. And then they all ended up fatherless when he died. And he was killed by a mentally deranged man who had murdered his father and his two brothers in their home. The SWAT team made entry, and Randy died. Wow. And I just hope that police can go, they'll feel that they can do better. And I hope that people can go and see Randy's story and know that there are a lot of great cops out there too, who do care about the community, who are invested in the community. Like my husband's on the Boys and Girls Club, he's on the church board, he's doing traffic studies. His whole thing is, how are you relevant in the communities that you are not only protecting, but serving?
Yeah, correct.
So it's been a huge honor for me, and also to be talking to all the SWAT guys that worked with Randy.
Yeah.
Because it's such a beautiful love story. It is a band of brothers who all took care of each other. Randy was the best of the best. He was 51 and in better shape than anybody else on the SWAT team at the time that he passed. And, you know, sitting down with his widow, Lisa, going over every detail, every scene, you know, and we really collaborated. And again, she wrote the book. It's called 41D Man of Valor. So my agents have it. We're trying to get people attached. We're really excited.
Awesome.
I think it's there's so in this, similar to Power, there's this little something for everybody in it.
Yeah.
Because there's the action, there's a faith element, there's the camaraderie with the guys. Because it's not in SWAT. It's not just LAPD SWAT. It's not just going into a house. You also go and you work crime suppression.
Right.
So there's the great banter between partners, two guys in a cop car. And Randy was also around during the Rodney King beating, during the riots, and during OJ. Okay. So he also served during a really racially charged time in LA. So 10,000 people attended his funeral. It was the largest in the history of LA, and actually until Michael Jackson passed.
Wow. That's incredible.
So I think it's a story we need.
Yeah, for sure. Now. And thank you. Please keep us up to date on it. And BSO fans, we're going to definitely be promoting that. So be on the lookout for that when that happens. And Heather Zuhlke, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a pleasure. We appreciate it. Thank you.